Ooh, technology's working, that's a good start. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And it's great to be here today. So, the next 45 minutes, what we're going to talk about is innovation isn't just the tech, but it's the discipline to use it. So, as Ollie said, I'm the serial entrepreneur. I'm the founder and chief exec of a great Welsh business that we've built, or we're building, down in Wales, called Novo Solutions. A little bit about deNovo, because we're going to use deNovo as the case study. So this is going to be a practical session. I'm going to show you exactly how we've grown it from 0 to 12 million in revenue in under 4 years. So this is why it's, we'll just give you some context about it. So what does deNovo do? It's a tech company, a Welsh tech company. Why do we push the Wales angle? Because it's a differentiator. That's probably for another session. But if we were doing this in London, we would be in a very crowded space. Down in Wales, we can be more of a big fish in a small pond. But what we do is we do digital transformation using Oracle Cloud and ServiceNow. And what does Oracle Cloud and ServiceNow do? They're tools, enterprise tools, that digitally transform your finance, HR, and payroll operations. To give you some size, we're based in Wales, but across the UK, and also in Chennai in India, and there's 140 people that work for the company. And as I said, we've gone from 0 to 12 million in revenue with an EBITDA of around 2 million in 5 years. We've got deep public sector expertise. So we've built our reputations by doing some of the biggest projects in central government, but we also have client base in local government. We do police, and also we've started to branch out more into secondary education as well. Outside of that, we deal with some of the largest multi-international companies that there are in existence today. But we're just not what you would call a systems integrator professional services firm. We create our own IP. We have our own managed services. More about that later, because we all love recurring revenue. And we also, our new venture is an AI-driven business process outsourcing operation for payroll services. To show you some of the growth, yes, we got into the Elite Business 100. We've done it for 3 years, but we've also been listed in things like the Sunday Times 100 and Deloitte. And for those out there, I was just talking to Ollie before I came onto the stage, awards are important. I've generated business, a lot of business, off of winning awards because it's created profile and kept me in the public eye. And so definitely if you get the opportunity to enter, and it's great if you can win them, they do produce a really good return on investment. That's a little bit about deNovo, but the context is we're going to use this as a case study as we go through this. So I just want to ask yourself a question. How innovative do you think your company operations are? So do you use innovation to the way you run your HR, your finance, your payroll operations, your Salesforce, your CRM today? Just a show of hands in the room. Do people think they're innovative in what they do in those areas or not? I don't see many hands in the room. That might be my eyesight as well, but anyway. But do you know what? They're the things that run your business. And if you're scaling, you better be in control of this stuff because, you know, as you get bigger, you will get more complex and you need to be able to manage it because if you don't manage it, it's going to hit your costs. Your costs are going to escalate, and that's going to hit your margins, and you're going to cause yourself problems. So it is really, really important. So the innovation myth, and bear in mind, I do digital transformation as a business, right? That most companies think, oh, we'll just buy some new technology. We'll get somebody like deNovo to implement it. We'll buy some new platforms. Oh, we'll have innovation labs. I love when I deal with sometimes the big systems integrators, the big brands. They go, we've got this innovation lab. Do you know, as an entrepreneur, my innovation lab's the kitchen table and the garage, because that's where I think it all up. But you know, they have all, this is their concept of what innovation is. And now we've got AI. So we've made it through, what, 3 slides, or I did mention it on the second slide without mentioning the word AI. But this stuff's real, it's coming. But do you know what? The spoiler alert, it's not all of that stuff. Because if you don't use it, if you don't embed it into your organization, the tech just amplifies it. So if you're disciplined, it will make you more productivity. If you're chaotic, and when we're all starting businesses up and we're starting to scale, it's chaos, let's be honest. It amplifies the chaos. And if you're inconsistent, it really magnifies that. And some of the big implementations I do, big departments, they're very inconsistent the way they go about their business processes. And all the tech does is shine a big whopping searchlight on that, and it just shows where the flaws are. So it's really important. It is all about adoption. And that's really, really key. So with my board, and the board level question of any organisation shouldn't be, are we innovative? Are we doing innovation? Can we use innovation to scale faster than the headcount? Because in a professional services firm or a technical consultancy at default, the headcount equals the revenue. The more heads you are, in theory, you should be able to generate more revenue. And it all comes down to billable hours and utilisation and these things. So there's naturally a structural limit to growth. Because even the biggest companies on the world can't just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and expecting the revenue to go up more and more and more. There is a point when that doesn't work, that model doesn't work. And so there's naturally structural limits to these types of firms there. And, you know, margins become under pressure and the quality usually drops as well, the more people you add in. And then you get upset customers. So, you know, you can get knock-on effects as you grow. But it's not just about your capability, your capacity, but it's building that capability, the knowledge about how you operate. And the back office is really important because that's enabling your front office. So back office innovation enables the front office innovation, but it only works if you use the tools. And that's really key, and that's how you scale. Because the structural challenges of services is that it's basically expertise, knowledge, people, and you sell it as time. I suppose the classic example is the legal profession. Knowledge, you know, people selling as time. Very expensive time. but that's the way it works. And it's cash flow positive, but it can also be capital intensive because the more people you get. So you get into that world of cash flow. And we're going to come on to that later on. But the knowledge is trapped in people. What we want to do is get it trapped in the systems. Because people will come and go from your business over time. But you will need to retain the corporate knowledge. And that's about how you operate, the systems and the processes you use to operate your business daily. And it doesn't matter if you're just starting out and you're in the, so we say, the £0 to £1 million domicile. The principles are the same. And this is what we'll talk about more. So it's really, really, really key. A modern services firm, and this is where I see the impact of AI, because it's going to accelerate this over the time. You can't be the traditional, as we say, bums on seats model. You need to break out of that in some way. There's always going to be an element of it, but you can't be totally dependent on that. And I think those kind of firms that operate that old economic model that's been in place for 20, 30 years and more, they're going to come unstuck, and they're having to transform. We are seeing that. You're seeing that with the big four are already having to transform the way they work because the impact of AI is changing their model. So what can you do in a professional services firm? And this is what we did in deNovo. We package our intellectual property. So we're going to create passive revenue streams from that intellectual property that we can sell. Our managed services, we like long-term contracts. We look at, once we've digitally transformed you using this technology, Oracle and ServiceNow, it still needs to be looked after because the technology actually changes every 3 months and people need help adopting it. So long-term support contracts, not necessarily fixing the technology because the technology, the quality of it these days is so high, but it's extracting value out of it to maximize your client's return on investment. That's a service you can offer, and that's what modern managed services look like these days. Moving towards AI-enabled business services, I think in the future, the platform is going to be about the services you provide end-to-end as a business, hence why we're looking at payroll bureau outsourcing services, but with a modern take of using the technology. And the focus really has to be now on value and real outcomes. You can't be the bums on seats model anymore. And it's migrating away from that. So you need multiple revenue streams. And to me, modern services, professional services firms become a platform. They become a platform moving forward from there. So it's a whole new chess game, in effect, that we've got to move towards. So how do you do this? So here's your one management consultancy acronym, and I made this up, so I don't know if it's there, because I found the image first, and I thought that looks pretty cool, so what can I do with this? But it's important. The most two important words on this is rigor and discipline. To me, innovation, the way you run your business, is its own operating system. And that operating system has to be embedded in your organisation to drive the right behaviour. Because otherwise, it's just technology. You've got to use these tools. And, you know, I can run most of deNovo seriously straight from my mobile phone. I've got it all on here. And some of the things I'll show you, I can literally call up here right now. But you've got to have the rigour to be able to use the tools. You've got to have time to analysis. Yes, you can use AI to do analysis, but you as a human still have to have the discipline to action, to take action on that. So that's really, really important. And then you need to repeat it. And you don't just do it once a month. You're going to have to establish a cadence, and that cadence could be daily. When it comes to cash flow, and we'll show you how we scaled, cash flow is everything, and it's a daily occurrence. It's a daily exercise. Sales, we have weekly calls. Every Monday, we go through the pipeline, and we go through it with delivery, so there's no surprises. And accounting isn't just an end of month, something you do end of month, end of year. It's something you continuously are doing. So that cadence of how you use the technology to scale is really, really important. And you've got, the bigger you get, as I said, you become more complex, and you need to be able to have these systems in place, not just the tech, but people as a system to be able to actually use it, and that's key. So it's about designing your radar. So I'm going to talk about 4 things, and this is a practical session. Cash. Cash is king always. And, you know, we've seen some of the biggest companies in the world, they run out of cash, they're dead, it's over. The banks and the creditors come in. So cash is always king. So that's your first thing. That's your lifeblood of everything. Sales, pipeline review. I mean, I do sales as a profession. That's what I do, really. But there's a saying, there's nothing more important than new business, because you constantly need new work, new blood coming into it. Delivery, where sales meets people, really, the delivery function. How you have your people, and you've got the right capability, you've got the right skills, it's the scheduling as well. And also, how does that work with the tools that you're now going to be selling, you know, the passive income as well? They go together. And the last one is accounting. It's about being profitable. It's the old saying, isn't it? Revenue is vanity, profitability is sanity. You've got to be profitable. You've got to find your way to profit. You can't go on forever raising money and not being profitable. It doesn't work that way. So start with the discipline. You're going to get to profitability from day one as fast as possible, and you're going to be positive. Even if it's a small profit, that's where you're going to be. But you've got to get there. So let's have a look at this. Okay. If you can see this, it's probably easier for those in the room than maybe that's on joining us on television. This is actually deNovo's cash flow over the last 12 months. So, the blue line is actually the physical cash. That's the cash in the bank. That's what I've got access to right now. The dotted line above it is my credit facilities. Now, I'm quite lucky because the banks trust me, and because I've done it before, I've got quite a large credit facility as well. So I've got a backup as well. What I try and do is put the blue line between the red and the green. I mean, the graph speaks for itself. But you could also say it's about calculated risk-taking, because I know the cash is coming in and I still want to grow. And it's all the time, it's me making informed decisions based on the data that I can see. So we always say, I think traditionally, business is about relationships and timing. I would say it's about relationships, timing, and data these days. So it's using the data so I can see exactly where we are. And when we start to move into our last quarter, and our business is quite cyclical, you get the first quarter, and our quarters run from 1st of June to 31st of May, so we're in the first month of the last quarter now. And what happens is that we always are kind of, on paper, loss-making in the first quarter. We get to kind of break even in the second quarter, a little profit in the third quarter, and then all the profit drops in the fourth quarter. And that's just the nature of our business. I don't particularly like it, but that's just the way it is. But what this allows me to do is I can take calculated risks. And we look at this every single day. That's our cadence. Every morning, what's coming in? What can we forecast? Is our forecast changing out day by day? And we've already created, this is for 1 year, and we create the next year's one as well. It's just out of Excel. It's nothing more clever than that. It's just where we've pulled the data together and put it into tables. But the point is, we actually understand our cost base, and we understand our cash position at all times. And that allows us to make informed decisions, and allows me to take calculated risks, because I'm always investing ahead of the curve. And I'm always kind of, in a way, betting against myself and my sales team that we're going to bring the sales in. Just before I come on stage, true story, my head of sales this morning, who was with me last night, Helen, we've just won a £1 million contract from a big major supplier. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know what, though? Mentally, the first thing I think about, that's great, but I ain't going to see any cash for 180 days. And that's the first thing that goes through my head. It's brilliant, got the contract, and it's great. It's a brilliant achievement. And I'm pleased for her. I'm sure she's pleased she's going to get commission on it. But for me, I'm not going to see any cash for 180 days. So this doesn't have that contract in. It won't actually have that contract in because it'll be in the next financial year. But what we'll do is we'll start planning that cash flow into it. That's how we look at it all the time. So everything contributes. And that allows us to make the informed decisions. The red line, by the way, is £1 million, just to give you an idea. The greens too. That's just notional lines I try and put in. When you get to the right-hand side, by the way, when you get there, that's when you start becoming a bank. You have a treasury function, and you start lending your money back. So that's for a lesson for another day. But don't get to a point when you've got £1 or £2 million. If you get to that, sitting in a bank earning 1%, no. That's when you become the bank and you start loaning it back. And you start making that capital work for you as a way. Don't let it affect your working capital, but make sure the cash has to be used. So that's the first one. No, and most important thing, know your numbers. No excuses at all. Know your numbers. I'll tell you why. We take running the business really seriously. We have 140 people working for us, but we're probably responsible for 400 people, the families. We can't get this wrong. So that's the important. You always know your numbers. However big you are, know your numbers. Okay, sales, bit I like. We use Salesforce, I'm not plugging it, but to me it works. I've always used it. I've obscured some of the data here, obviously, but this is real time. This is our Salesforce pipeline. Before we just won the £1 million work, by the way, because it's moved on. But this is all about the data. And it was something Piers Linney said yesterday about the AI. There's opportunities in the data that perhaps we don't see, but you've got to collect the data. Now, we've coming up to 5 years. We track everything. Where we won, where we lost. Why did we win? Why did we lose? What's the best sectors to be active in? What's the sectors we don't want to be active in? Is it strategic? Is it tactical? We can understand this through the data. And obviously, the bottom right one is where our leads come from. So that's a clip of where our leads come from all time, from our sources. So when it starts off, you start off any of this stuff. I'm just trying to see, because unfortunately my colours are not that great from looking at it. You start off, a lot of it is Mark's little black book. But over time, you break out from that, and you get other sources of leads. And in fact, if you add our biggest source of lead, and this is a great statistic, that actually says 51%, that big yellow piece, that comes from our customers directly and repeat business. So of that 12 million now, 6 is coming through because we deliver great service. Keeping the customers happy and customer advocacy is the holy grail of marketing. It's not about what you consider your business is or value, it's what your customers perceive you is. So I was hearing earlier about customer experience. It's true. It's really, really true. But we track everything and we take time to look at this stuff. We want to understand. We don't want to play in a space where we're not going to win. It's too much work. It's too much effort. We're going to play somewhere where we can win. We're going to stack the deck of cards in our favour as much as possible to get us across the line. And that starts by understanding our business. And that's really, really important. I mean, the value of that data in our market segment, I would say that's worth a lot of money in its alone. But that's taken 5 years to do that. But that's the power of the tool. It's not difficult to use, and I've got it on my phone as well, so I can clearly see what's going on. Now, we work in professional services. There is the people element. And there is software in professional services called Professional Services Automation, PSA. And basically, it's where sales hits delivery. And we've got to bring the two together. It's where what you've promised, you've got to deliver on what you've promised. And it's the people side. And when we was at deNovo, we implemented this really early. And this was a lesson. We had a previous business and we sold it to a very big, large American systems integrator company. But before we sold it, there was a point where everybody was running into me going, Mark, we need more people, we need more people, we need more people. And I'm going, I don't understand it because the money's not coming through the door. The cash isn't there. And we keep saying we needed more people. And we're not underselling it. What we were was when we were not being efficient. We were not recording our time properly. We were not recording our expenses properly. And when we implemented this, we worked out our actual utilisation. There's always an element of this still, even in these the modern platforms, was around 51%. I tell you now, that's bankrupt territory. You're going under. You need to get it above about 80, around 82%. And if you can get it higher than that, you're really, really making money at that point. But we implemented this software, and in the space of 3 months, we went from 51% to about 75% utilisation. We knew what we were doing, and the better we moved on, we were getting our utilisation up. In fact, when we sold that company, our utilisation was something like 95%. That was way above industry norms and averages. But this stuff, again, it's about we use it every day. Where's our people? There's always that healthy friction. Helen showed our team at our sales meeting a picture of a cat with a mouse. And it's like, we've brought a dead mouse. We've won another deal. And everybody goes, yeah, but it's a dead mouse. And we're going, you're supposed to be happy because, you know, we're bringing more work through the door. We want you to do everything. But it's an analogy that always sticks with me. But again, it's using it. We need the friction. The last one is profitability. And these are the numbers. We use 0. And this is a point in time, but immediately, you know, these platforms have AI in them, by the way. You just need to switch it on. And to give you some analysis, I still think your own analysis and understanding is still more important. But 0's there. Immediately, you know how much money's owed to you, who you owe money to, you know, where your cash is in your bank account. And again, it's all recorded. Basically, your P&L becomes live. It becomes real time, as long as you're using the systems properly. And it's really, really important because you need to know your profitability. Don't find it out as a surprise on the last day of the month at year end. You want to know what the profitability now is so you can forecast it. And it's really, really important. And these are the systems that we've used to scale deNovo. They're not all integrated. We're probably too small, you know. The things we put in, like Oracle, are really for a minimum of 1,000 people, 1,000 employees. And we usually deal with around, the sweet spot for us is usually 6,000 to 12,000 employees. They're big systems. We can't justify that with 140 people. The costs don't stack up. But the discipline still is the same. And one of the biggest things we find, even with the big technology systems we put in, the big organisations still don't use them properly. So it just becomes a cost. And they can do all of these things. They're all very clever. Whatever system you choose, Oracle, Salesforce, Workday, SAP, if you don't use them, you don't get the benefit out of them. And it's the same for this, on a lower scale, Xero, again, Salesforce, and even the Excel systems we've built to monitor our cash flow, to extract it. But, you've got to use them, and it's really, really key. So what becomes the turning point with all of this? Because you could all sit there and go, yeah, Mark, we're still too small, and we're still growing, and we can still just do it on a scrap of paper and a spreadsheet. But there's a point when you do get bigger. I mean, we've always found it when I've scaled companies, you get to about 18 people, and if you don't start having structures and systems in place, the wheels come off pretty damn quick at that point. For some reason, it always sticks in my mind, number 18 from there. But you want to capture the knowledge of how we operate inside the systems and document it. There are things around, I mean, we've just achieved it, like quality standards, ISO 9000. For quality management systems. And I'll be honest, 20, 30 years ago, we just wanted to get it because we wanted a sticker. Not anymore. The world we live in, especially in the tech space, the ISO standards are kind of mandatory, and we have to operate above the standard, especially in the world of security. It's not enough. We have to be so much higher. And we have to live and breathe it, and it's in our DNA. We get it into our DNA. So for us, it's time to drink one's own champagne, because we go out and sell these systems and we get people to implement them and want them to use it, but we need to use the same disciplines ourselves. And that's what we've done, and that's how we scale. And that's why we're confident about what we're doing, because we understand, especially around cash, we understand our cash flow, we understand the investments we make, we can take calculated risks. We can also play scenarios out. What happens if we lose that contract that we've just won and that cash isn't going to come in? How does that affect us? So it's all key, it all comes together, and that's really key. So to me, operational innovation, that's the leadership discipline, and you've got to get it subconsciously into your DNA, into your operation. That's how you work. Because as you get bigger, you're going to get more complex. But here's some real life examples of that kind of rigor and discipline of what that's allowed us to do. Firstly, it's improved our cash flow. At times when our cash flow's been low, I've gone and renegotiated contracts, not the value, but better T's and C's. Can you pay me quicker? I'm an SME. I'm helping build the British economy. Goes down pretty well when you're talking to public sector bodies, trust me, because they're not going to say no. They might not like it and they'll stick to their terms, but you can have the conversation. I used to live in Newcastle for a while, and you can tell I'm not from Wales as well. I'm a boy from Bexleyheath, South East London. But in Newcastle, there's a saying that says, shy bairns get now. If you don't ask, you don't get. So go ask. Somebody can only say no. But we've improved our cash flow by getting better T's and C's on the payment terms. We've renegotiated vastly our banking terms. When we take this data and we sat down with our bank and they can see it, and they can see the contracts, and they see what we're doing, it becomes a very easy, different conversation with them because they're managing risk. But our risk profile is more down towards green because it's under control, and we have the evidence to show them and the discipline that we're doing. And when we report quarter on quarter to them, because we do, that's our agreement, they actually see the progress. So what I'm saying we're doing, we're actually doing, and they can see it. And suddenly, credit becomes more available to us. Always negotiate credit terms when you're in a high, not when you're in the trouble, because they're not going to give it to you. So when you've got money and you're in the best place possible, that's when you go and have the negotiations with the bank. Get the biggest overdrafts you can, because you will need it at some point. There's always going to be a point you need. One thing about cash flow, and just so I remembered it. As you get bigger, it oscillates. It's like a rope. And the oscillations of the waves, it really moves. It's fascinating. And I tell you, I think there should be a whole degree or a masterclass on just cash flow. But as I've seen, as we've got bigger and bigger, the variance moves like crazy. And the banks understand that. And what they do is they just give us a massive credit facility to deal with the down, because they know it's going to fly back up. And usually with clients, as much as I love them, and I do, I love all my clients, but sometimes, you know, it's like buses. For whatever reason, they all decide to pay 2 or 3 days late, and it all comes in one go. So you go from, I think the biggest swing we've ever seen was minus 250,000 to just under 1.5 million. So that's 1.75 million swing inside 3 days. So if that's what you can see. But that's what the spreadsheet tells you is happening. So you understand it, everyone's confident. It's not about things are in dispute, it's just people are just not paying you on time. And I know that's one of Emma Jones's big things for the government, is getting people paid on time, especially if you're a public sector body. What else? Better profitability. And the next one down as well is profitability comes from also understanding your cost base. Really understand where you spend your money. So zero's brilliant. Set up your chart of accounts. How much do you spend on marketing, website development, people, rent, buildings? Just look at everything and analyse it. Understand where you spend your money and challenge yourself. We've got an office in Guildford. I don't like the terms and the rent. I'm coming up to the break clause. I'm probably going to break it, and I'm going to move to a different office in Guildford and save myself £70,000. So, you know, that would literally turn into profit at the bottom because it will drop through. So it's understanding your cost base. So this is it, but I can only stand up and talk to you about this because I've got these systems behind me, and more importantly, I use them and my team uses them every single day. You know, try telling that to our sales team when they go, oh, I've got this opportunity. If it's not in Salesforce, it don't exist as far as I'm concerned. And you're not going to get paid commission on it because it's not in Salesforce and we don't know anything about it. So it's in your interest to put it in Salesforce. It's not difficult. So that's where we are. So the choice is, where people get stuck is, you know, when you're scaling, when you start out, when you're the leader, the CEO, and it is a lonely job at the time, you've only got so much head space. And you are thinking about cash. Can I get through to the end of the week? Can I make payroll at the end of the month? We've all been there. We all do it. It's there. It's natural. And I think we become acclimatised to it, which is a bit of a weird thing if you don't do this. You just live in that space. But to innovate, you've got to find the headspace to build that capacity, that capability, secure the knowledge, bring it all together. And that's the internal automation. So the outcome, as I said, operational rigour, predictable quality. You know, you can really become defensible as a company, and you move really just from selling your time to building and selling capability from different ways. So, final message, and then we've got a few minutes for questions. Build your radar. And it doesn't matter if you're a small company or you're bigger than us, you've got to have a radar. And, you know, use it. If you do not use it, you won't get there. Thank you. So we've got 6 minutes left. Questions? Questions?
Thank you. Jeff Wilkinson Construction Consultants. We're a professional services company. The presentation you delivered is literally what I've been delivering to our senior management team over the past month. One of our key tasks is about that utilisation aspect. Is there a piece of software, an app or something you particularly used that helps prevent staff booking time how they want to projects as opposed to how they're actually spending time on projects?
Yeah, that's a challenge, been there. First off, lessons for that is don't give them lots of time codes. Seriously, do not give them lots of time codes. Okay, minimise the number of time codes that you've got. Secondly, it's not just the employee's responsibility, and we attach basically their remuneration to doing this properly. It works, yeah, because the company doesn't work without it. So we use that as well from that side of things. But it's also the managers running the project. They're empowered. They use the data. They should be on top of it before it even gets to you. But the software, we're just moving to a piece of software called CMAP as our PSA. But the way we'll set it up is literally minimal time codes and building that rigour and discipline into people, because we drive it every Friday. Have you done all your timesheets? And then it's the manager's responsibility to check they're correctly, because in those kind of software, it just drops through and you'll see the profitability of the project, what's happening straight away. So that's how we do it, but minimise the number, restrict the choice. Anybody else?
Right in the middle here, yeah.
Somebody at the back.
Hi, Dolores Sanders. I run a manufacturing technology company. Actually, it's a more broader question. You talked about billable hours and obviously professional services. With AI and things coming in, what is your take on the death of the billable hour?
I think we have to change. I don't think companies just completely based on billable hours. I think that's what's going to change over the next, so we say, 3 to 5 years, and it could accelerate. So I think my view is, knowing that, we already started to evolve deNovo to try and move away from that model, from that side. So AI will have an impact on that. I've been doing this a long time. I started in the 80s. I'm 57, 58, something like that now. And we were talking about AI in 1987 when I went to work. So I'm not actually overly worried about it. It's a tool. It's a really powerful tool. It's really cool technology. And I think we're all figuring out still how to use it, but it is a disruptive tool, and it will affect the model of professional services firms, and it will affect billable. We've got 2 minutes left. Any more?
We've also got, I think, just
one.
a couple of questions popping up here, Mark.
Yeah.
Shall I read one of them out?
Yeah.
So I have a small bakery with 10 staff members, so needs the dough. What are the ways I can improve my day-to-day operations to improve cash flow and not spend a lot of money on software?
I think the first thing is, some of this software, like Xero, that's not really expensive.
And or Sage.
Or Sage, yeah, just saying, Sage, sorry, Sage.
Just say.
Who else we got? Sorry. Sorry. But seriously, Sage, Xero, they're not really expensive tools. And to me, it's the cost of doing business. If it's going to save you or make you more profitable, then it's an investment worth making from that side of things. So I would say it's there. And then the cash flow spreadsheet, that's just us taking extracts daily and building it in Excel. We've just done that ourselves. So that's the price of an Excel license. So you don't have to spend a lot of money on these things, as I said, for the size.
Love that. Everybody, I think, because I'm going to ask you a final question.
Okay.
Can we hear it for Mark Sweeny, everybody? Yes?
Thank you.
First class. So 2 super quick things, Mark, from me. First of all, I'm not sure if there was something with the acoustics in here, but I think I heard Mark say that this morning he heard that he landed a £1 million deal for his business, which I think should get a bigger cheer than it did, if I'm honest. I think we've been Dragon's Den into only cheering investment rounds.
Yeah.
Let's cheer some deals.
Yeah.
And do share it with us if you've done a deal this week as well, but thank you. I'd like to ask personal advice for us all on your top tip. I don't mean about getting brilliant people to work for you, because you have got that already. How do you keep them?
Keep them. To me, where we are on a natural journey, we're looking at ways of making them owners of the business. Yeah. And my leadership team, I'm a big supporter of EMI.
Yeah.
I do think the government could simplify it, by the way, if anybody's in here from the government. But I do believe in the EMI, because it's not just me that builds the company, it's the team that builds the company, and I want them to share in the success as well. And I think that's really, really important. I think as you increase that to the wider team, that's what we're looking at. But it's
EMI, this is incentives for the management team.
Yeah, and we want to be able to extend that in some way for the other employees. Yeah. So we're looking that way. So I think retention, we always say, Ollie, if you come and work for deNovo, the difference is you're coming to build a company. It's very different than just turning up, being a number, being sent out on a job, earning so many hours. You come and help build the company, and therefore you should receive some kind of remuneration for helping build the company.
I guess everyone to act like an owner, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are. Mark, firstly, thank you for today, but also congrats again on last night's award. It's richly deserved. Mark Sweeny, everybody.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.